What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday night, February 20th already, almost the end of February. It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. It's Proper Royals Live. We got Dennis McNamara on the show tonight, DJM Reptiles. He's been at the game quite a long time, and I'm excited to talk to him about it. We'll get into business models, relationships, just longevity and experience in the industry and the hobby. And we'll get into some of what he does in his everyday life as well. And he's a good dude. I'm biased. He supported the show for quite a long time, but we were chatting backstage, and I've had a chance to meet him briefly, although I'll tell that story in a minute too. But anyhow, stick around tonight. Dennis McNamara will be on the show. So thank you for being here. Thanks for checking it out. I was going to jump into the announcements, and I will. I usually have like a little story or something. It shouldn't be a sermon. I certainly don't want, I certainly don't think I'm a preacher. I don't have a whole lot tonight. I am actually really kind of exhausted and wired at the same time, when you're amped up, but you're just beat. I had a show down in Des Moines this weekend, which was really good in Iowa. If you're like me and you're not from the Midwest, you don't know how far one city is from another. May as well be, however long. So Florida boy, I figure I'll just get up early. I'll drive into Des Moines. I'll do the show and I'll drive home. And I did it all safely, and it worked, and it was a good show. But man, that's a long day. Man, I left at like 4:30 in the morning. It's about 3.5 hours to Des Moines. The show is open for 6 hours, another hour for VIP. So it actually opened at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you're on that whole time, and then you got to pack up and get home, and it threw me off. So usually I feed on Sunday nights. Everything gets backed up. So I'm going to do the show tonight, and then I go feed afterwards. So I'm tired. I'm a little bit out of it, but I'm excited to do the show. I always look forward to doing it. The Sunday show was another very, very good show. The reports of the death of the market, highly exaggerated, highly overrated. I know people that had a far better show than me. I know people that didn't do anything at the show. And I talked to some other people that vended the same weekend in a different city. They said it wasn't a very good show. So I know I'm just one person with one opinion and one experience, really, is all I'm trying to share. It's certainly not bragging, but I think sometimes we find what we search for. So if we tell ourselves the market's dead, okay, maybe big surprise that it's dead. But if we go seek the good stuff, if we do the work, if we drive the 3.5 hours and we stay on and present for the 7 hours of show, then, and all the brand building and work that goes into it, I know it's no accident. But anyhow, what I'm saying is I feel like the market's picking up. I feel like there's good things happening. I don't care one bit to dive into the politics of the world, the economics of the world. We hear one thing one day, inflation seems to be at its we've passed the hump. The market hits all-time highs, and then today, crap day for the market. The January inflation report higher than expected. I have no idea what to make of it. I'm just taking it day by day, show by show. Keep putting in the work, keep doing the good stuff. But I do think there's been an uptick, and I think it's been overall pretty positive. So I hope the same for you all. If you've been on the sidelines, maybe eke your way back in. We'll talk to Dennis. We'll see what he says about that as well. Hello to the chat. I don't get a chance when I'm engaging the camera to see what's going on in the chat, but I want to say hello to everybody. Special shout out to Troy at Best Dressed Balls. He came and hung out at the show. He didn't vend at the show, which probably led to me having a better show. And he brought me chicken tenders. So what a guy, right? Check out Troy at Best Dressed Balls if you get a chance. Let's see. What do we got here tonight for announcements? That show, I got to give a little shout out to. That show is a promotion called Cold Blooded Expos. It's run by a guy named Jason, and I regret it. I was just say I don't know his last name. I could have looked it up. I did not. Jason runs that. Great shows. Very, very good show here in Minnesota, Minneapolis area. And really the best in our like immediate metro. There's some good ones like Ed and Emily from Snake Discovery put on a good show. I would say the Cold Blooded Expo is probably more of a breeder collector level, whereas Ed and Emily's is more sort of pet centric, which we probably knew from their YouTube anyhow. Both good, but the Cold Blooded Expos are really great, done well. And I got to say, I never thought it was that big of a deal, but Jason picks venues in really like kind of nice areas of town, so to speak, from what I've seen. I've only done a couple of his shows, but this is what I'm seeing. It seems to make a difference on the buyers and who's coming in the door and that kind of thing. So whatever he's doing, great job. If you're in the Midwest, I know he definitely goes from like Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota. That might be all of them. I don't know if there's more in there or not. But if you're looking for a show to vend or to go to, I recommend them from my experience of those couple shows. They're really, really pretty good. Speaking of promoters, I do like, I'll be at the Scaled Up show in Rothschild, Wisconsin this Sunday, 1-day show. And then the following Sunday in Hastings, Minnesota, just speaking of Ed and Emily Snake Discovery, this is their show. So what's that? That's, what was it? So like the 26th in Rothschild, and then the 4th of March in Hastings. Weekend off, and then Tinley, of course. So pretty big time. Four shows, 5 weeks run. I'm pretty excited for that. I hope to see you somewhere. Come hang out. And I hope I didn't curse myself talking about the market. No, it's been good. I'm looking forward to it. So anybody local in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin area, I got ASFs. I'm ready. I'm only at the like hopper weaned stage. I'll have smalls in a couple weeks, and then of course the mediums, larges a few weeks after that. But it's booming, it's going, and I'm holding back stuff that I'm not using, and I'm pulling lots per day. I got a whole new rack ready to fill up. It's one of the big Freedom Breeder style size 20 bins, size 10 tubs, I think, or 15s. The numbers are 10, 20-15, whatever that means. Big tubs, lots of rodent holdbacks. You know what I'm talking about. I got patches. If I see you on the road, I got patches, shirts. They're ready to go. Let me know if you want to order shirts. They're $25 shipped. Shoot me a note. I'll get them to you. And of course, they'll probably throw in a couple patches on that. Next week on the show out of Las Vegas, I met them in Tinley back in October. Super cool couple. I regret I have to learn their names. This is how poorly of a show prep I've done. Fear to Fascination is the brand on Instagram. I'm sure you've seen them. Like I say, super charismatic, awesome people, and they were great to hang out with in Tinley. Fear to Fascination will be the guest next week on the show. And it's really close. I should have the first hatchlings of the year in the next 2 weeks before Tinley. So if you're not following me on Morph Market, I should have about 30 clutches this year, and they'll be on Morph Market. So you can follow on there. Or if you want first dibs on any hatchlings, you got to be in the Patreon group. And those links are down below. There. Enough of my yapping. Dennis McNamara. Dennis was very, like I say, he's been a good guy to me. I see him in the chats fairly often, and it's kind of funny. I don't know what I could tell about it. I can't tell anything about it, but some people use their names, and some people use their brand handle, and then some people use like their brand handle dash their name. But Dennis was always just Dennis. So I had no idea what his brand was. And then I started doing show prep, and I'm like, man, this guy's been around forever. He's done a ton of things. Hangs out with a ton of people, knows a ton of people. Why didn't I have Dennis on sooner? And to Dennis's credit, he came and knocked on my door, and that was quite a few months back, I think. It doesn't matter, but anyhow, I'm happy to have Dennis on the show. And I said I would tell the story earlier. Robin Marklin at Redline Shipping. He did introduce me to Dennis at Tinley. And I had to come clean to Dennis. I didn't recall, man. I was a little overwhelmed in Tinley. There's a lot going on, tired, and vending the booth Anyway, I feel bad. So we're going to hang out, get to know Dennis all together tonight. You guys probably know him. I'm probably the dummy in the room that doesn't know him. So stick around. It'll be a fun show. Please welcome for the very first time to the Proper Royal stage, Dennis McNamara. Dennis, how you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm stumbling through your introduction. I'm like, well, I think he's a good guy, and I had a chance to meet him, but I don't remember. So
okay, the shows are a whirlwind, so it definitely. And plus, you're up there in that check-in area. It's a madhouse up in that area.
It is a madhouse up there. I think, and I don't know if I'm at liberty to give any more details, but I think we're in a different place this go around, and I think I'm still attached to Robin's table. So I say all that because I really don't know. You know, when you have somebody arrange something nice for you, you're just like, all right, I'll just be there. I'm not real sure what's going on.
Yeah, hey, I get it. I've had the same tables there, and then last time they moved me a little bit, so I was like, I almost felt that way. Luckily, it was only about 15 feet to the right, but still.
Yeah, I know that people get pretty attached to their spots, not just having a spot, but where their spot is at Tinley.
Well, I like that just in shows in general. Like in Daytona, we always have the same tables, and in Tinley, like to have it just because that site fidelity, making it so people know where to come back and see you, because you get people over and over again, which is like the goal.
Yeah,
they're looking.
Yeah, I haven't been vending long enough. It's a little bit over a year now. I've probably done 25 shows, maybe not 25, 20 shows anyway now. That's
a lot in a year.
I know. Well, I had to stop and think because I'm registered for like 27 this year. So, but that's not the long-term plan. It's the make a splash in the market region plan and go to find out, like, I hate saying it because I like the vendors or the promoters that I'm working with, but at some point, like you say, 26 is a ton. At some point you got to pick and choose what's worthwhile to do and what's not. But the only way I'm going to find out is going to do them. So this year in a new market in Minneapolis area, I was like, you know what? You could do this or you can go back to running restaurants, Adam. So go do this kind of thing.
Hey, I get it. I get it. I have aspirations of that at some point in time in my future, just trying to figure out what it is. But it's always tough if you go take a weekend away from the kids and away from your wife and then you don't make any money. You know, if you make money, then 26 is fantastic. If you have one of those shows where you're like one of 7 people in the venue, which then you're like, what did I do with myself? But
I joke that it seems like the farther I drive, of course, the less people know me because it's further out of the market, and the less well I do. And it is the longest drive home ever, knowing, if I have to say, it was a bust of a show. And yeah, you got to deal with the weekend without me. Yeah, great.
Yeah, at this point in time, I do about 4, maybe 5 shows a year. So it's like enough.
So which shows, I know you mentioned Tinley and Daytona. Which shows, what other shows do you do?
So I do both Tinley's, Daytona, and then so Chad Hulker and I were doing Raleigh for a while, but then he wasn't able to get the booth he had. I was just kind of riding his coattails, taking an extra table in there. And then there's a Chesapeake, Virginia show that's 20 minutes from here. And then they did a Show Me show in Virginia Beach last year that I did. So just depend, like, so and that was a pretty decent size venue. It looks like there's a lot of potential. It's in early August, which is kind of rough because not everything's out yet, but I don't know those. I mean, I'd be okay with those. Like that's enough.
Yeah. For me. I heard that Raleigh show is really a great show. So I know some breeders from Florida that make the trip up there to vend. Dale makes a trip to vend at Raleigh a couple times a year, I think.
Oh, dude, he wasn't there whenever. We only would do the one right after Thanksgiving. But it's a great group of guys that go there and hang out with Limey and hang out with there's a whole bunch of different people that go there, and it is just the way the ReptiCon runs, and Chad was doing all that. And I guess if you don't have the table every show, they don't let you keep it. That's what it sounded like. So we had an end cap we were working for, I don't know, he probably doing it longer than me, but maybe 3-4 years in a row we'd gone down there, and it's a big show. A lot of people through there. I mean, North Carolina is interesting. You get a lot of people watching in there as well as, but the sales are decent. It's a good venue. Like there's other good people there. It's a good time. Like it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to I'm not speaking for Repticon. I don't know that this is their policy, but I actually still have a table in Tampa from when I was living in Florida and vending there. And I asked them, I said, can I like give this to, can I like bequeath this to somebody? I know who a person who would really like to have it. And they said, well, no, it's just going to go to whoever's on our waiting list first. And I was like, well, what if I buy it and somebody else shows up to vend it? And they're like, well, as long as they got their licenses, we don't care. So I keep it and then I dole it out through the Patreon or through the friends group and that kind of thing. And just kind of like, I guess if there was a time where nobody raised their hand, I'd go, well, I'm not going to pay for it just to keep it. But as long as I know somebody that can use it, I'll just keep hold of it and I can help that group and that community a little bit more that way.
Yeah, there's probably always somebody that can use it. I mean, and I have a couple friends like Trace Harden, a couple other people down there I like to go see, and so I don't know. I'd like to figure out how to go back to that one. The only problem is it's the day after Thanksgiving. My wife hates it that I'm leaving like Thanksgiving weekend. So
yeah, and it's a long weekend too. Yeah. Like even
Sunday
longer than normal.
Yeah, so it's one of those things like, but it was lucrative. So like that to me, that makes it a lot easier to swallow whenever you come back with the,
Yeah, starts to make sense, right? Yeah. Well, have you ever done like more shows than that? Is that something you whittled down to doing, or those are the ones that you've just decided, along the way?
So let's see. So I haven't missed a Daytona since it was Orlando since '95.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We planned our wedding and children around Daytona, so I could not miss it. So Ted Thompson, a guy up in Pennsylvania, used to get shows in Hamburg, and I've gone up there and vended with him a few times just because we go there and hang out. But really, that was kind of it. There used to be a couple more local shows, and there was a Richmond show that a friend of mine put on a long time ago. It was a good show, and Richmond's about 2 hours from here, and I really liked that show. And a different guy runs it now, and I just haven't done it. It's just kind of one of those, which I like, Larry, but the shows just aren't the same. Like that show just isn't the same. It's kind of one of those. All the shows are always on Saturdays, and my work schedule is Tuesday through Saturday. So I work at a zoo, so taking off a weekend, it better be worth it because, we have a lot going on and tours and whatever else. And so if it's not something that I see as like definitely lucrative, then a lot of times I just don't do it.
Right. And I get that. And that's where, because sometimes people are like, why do you do you don't have to do every show. And I'm like, well, there's not really a day job. There's not really an excuse not to, if I say I want this to be the business, then I need to make it the business. So, but the other thing, there's a time, I'm blown away at the reptile community activity here. I mean, I don't know about anybody else not from Minnesota, but when I think of Minnesota, I just think bloody cold, and that doesn't really fit reptiles on the surface, right? So I was really amazed. But when I said I was going to do 26 shows this year, only Tinley and Green Bay are far enough for me to need a hotel. All the rest are within 3 hours. So
that's not bad. That makes it easier.
Yeah. See what I mean? I'm not going hotels. The animals are back home that night. I'm back home that night. I've got the kid the next morning kind of deal. So, or I take him with me. I'll go vend with my son. So in that way, it's really been kind of a blessing. And it's really helped me to establish my brand in this market that way.
Well, I think I was actually talking to a friend of mine the other day about this and saying, like, if I get to the point where my kids were old enough and wanted to go to shows and I didn't feel like I was missing on the weekend or doing things with them, then I probably would do more. And I'm also like, and I don't even know, I have a great job. I love what I do. I get to do a lot of really cool stuff, but I'm 6 years away from where I could retire with a pension out of there and be not that old. And so I'm like, if I could do that and do a show or two a month and not have to go to work, like, I mean, still working, but like, then it would be worth it to go do stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. I've enjoyed it. I know I'm in a bit of a unique situation, but having a little bit of the consulting clients that I can't live off that, but it'd buy me time to find a job if I had to, if I really needed to. but then it frees up the time for, I can spend an hour or two a day marketing. I can really work on pictures. I can clean like crazy. I could take on breeding rodents. I could build my business, all the things that we would do if we weren't going to work on that stuff. So, and knock on wood, it's working, and it's a good start. So if that all continues, I'll continue with it. If not, in a year, I'll be scrambling to get home on Tuesday nights to do a podcast, tell us, you already brought it up. I was going to get there later, but maybe we'll tackle that, and then we'll circle back to the hobby and industry. Tell us about the zoo, what the zoo is. What do you do there? You've been there. I know you said you're close to retirement, so you've been there a long time. Tell us about that.
So I work at the Virginia Zoo in Norfolk, Virginia. I have just hit 24 years of employment.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So I'm the assistant curator of reptiles. So basically I'm in charge of the reptile section, the employees in the building. I've had this job since 2012. Before that, I was an elephant keeper, giraffe keeper for the 12 years prior to that. Just get to do a lot of cool stuff. But the great part about the job now is I get to pick out the employees. I get to pick out the exhibits. I get to pick out this collection. So like, I get to do whatever I want. Like I filled out paperwork today to try to acquire some Parenti monitors. So like I can, within reason, I can do whatever I want, to kind of get I get to have Fiji iguanas. I get to have crocodiles. I get to have king cobra. I get to do whatever, and so it's a really hard job to say that I would not want to do at some point.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I don't actually retire from it, and maybe I just keep on doing it. I don't know what life brings. I just kind of thought, I was like, if I could have early teenage kids and be home all the time, I feel like that would be pretty worthwhile. Luckily, I have a great boss. I have a great just team, and like for my son started playing t-ball last year, and I took off every Saturday morning so I didn't miss any of his games.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that make it so maybe I'll hit 40 years, or I don't know what I'll do, but it's a great thing to do. I'm very involved in every aspect of it because I've been around and done a lot of things. So if they're doing a rhino thing, or if they're doing a tiger thing, or if they're I get to be involved in all of that. Mm-hmm. We also create exhibits, so we do a lot of concrete work and do a lot of what else. And I'm also like I'm a stud book keeper for species. So like I just published my first stud book for beaded lizards. So I manage all beaded lizards in the United States and some out of this country for zoos in general. So as far as the Hortum and Exasperatum, so the Mexican and the Rio Fuerte. So, and I get to do a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's self-imposed. I kind of make it so I'm involved in as much as I possibly can, but it makes it so it's interesting. It's never dull. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but it's just awesome. Right. And it's a great thing to do. And I get to work with, I don't know, what do we have there now? I think we have 97 species of reptiles with like 426 specimens of some sort. So I've gotten to keep and breed and teach and do lots and lots of cool stuff. So it's awesome. I don't know. It's a cool thing to do.
So why even do it at home? Like this, like if we could all draw up like what we wanted to do in our, craziest dreams at home, it's what you're describing. So, I mean that tongue in cheek. I know that you probably love it as a hobby, but that's the best like example. What's the Mark Twain quote? The make your vacation a vocation and you'll never work. Like that's the closest I've ever heard. Like I had fun in a restaurant, but not like that, man. That's cool.
Yeah. Because I would say like I love it, So I mean, it's just one of those things that, I have, I don't know, what do I have? 15 species of reptiles at home. I keep I keep redfoot tortoises and then like 14 species of snakes. And I'm always finding stuff that I like. And like all of my friends have come from, not all, but most of my friends have come from this. And just like, It's just, I don't know. I find stuff that's new and learn something every day, I would say. And just, it's just always evolving. And my son is a 4-year-old that thinks it's like the great. I made a new turtle pen yesterday with my buddy Scott Crumbly, and I put it together, and like I came home today and showed him because he fell asleep before I finished it. He's like sitting in the pen with the turtles and holding them like they're whatever. And so getting to show him stuff and just getting to do it, and I get to go to these shows and see all these people, and I talk to people every night, and I don't know, it's just I can't get enough of it. I'd say I live, sleep, and I have a couple hours from when I get home hanging out with the kids and family and wife, and then when they go to bed, I go to work again.
Right.
And so I do snake stuff at night, or I do it with him a little bit in the afternoon, and on the weekend. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit obsessed with it. But it's just always there, and it's cool to see what you can make, and cool to see what you can do, and also zoo work isn't the most lucrative job you ever had. I mean, it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I work for the city. I do all right, but like it's nice to make a little bit extra income.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it's also nice just to do it. Like I've bred a lot of rarer species like olive pythons and macklot, some of these other things that people don't care about anymore, like macklots pythons and a whole bunch of other like Indonesian pythons like that. And so I've written some articles about that and put that out there. And so it makes it so people come to me more than I can even talk about, just asking questions and whatever else. So it's kind of like my original plan was to be a teacher in life, and this zoo job just kind of came to me. One of my friends asked if I wanted a job, brought me an application at a pet store I worked at, turned it in for me, and I got a job. So
wow, I was going to ask how the background was. Okay.
It kind of just all, I had a psychology degree, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to go to school anymore because I don't need to be a teacher. But I get to be a teacher.
Right.
Still.
Yeah.
So I get to do, I try to, today we had people from there's a aquarium here as well, and we did a tour for them. Took another hour out of the day to go show people around and show them all the cool stuff we do, and take a whole bunch of people to go see Aldabra tortoises they don't get to see all the time, take pictures with them, whatever else. It's just every aspect of it has a coolness, and so it's hard to let any of it go.
Yeah, that is cool. I empathize with what you're saying. I have a degree in history, and secondary education I was off to be a history teacher, and then restaurant life and restaurant finances versus teaching finances, which is horrible that I could say I was going to make more at Ruby Tuesday than shaping, the future with the great importance of history. But
because that salad bar, it's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I have not been in a Ruby Tuesday in about 10 years, but no, I will not ever. I'm done with salad bars. We'll put it that way. In my life, in my career, at Ruby's, outside of Ruby's, no, Ruby's was very, very good to me. And at that time, they were at the height of the game. That casual dining, and that era has passed the industry by. But Ruby's keeps holding on for whatever reason. But no, I definitely get it. Let's see. We got, stop the show for $5 here. John's Creature says, Dennis, what was your experience to see Brian Barczyk come to your zoo?
I've known Brian since that Chesapeake show that was the Richmond show. He used to vend that show when it was a little show like in the 90s. So I've known Brian since the 90s. Since it was not a very the Bells used to come to that show. It was crazy how I grew up in that thing. So I've known Brian for a long time. So he had texted me that morning and said that they were kind of in the area and wanted to come over and do it. And so he came over and we did just a behind the scenes tour and kind of went through, and he did a whole episode on it, and it was cool. It was normal. I was kind of expecting him to be a little bit different, like with it, because I'd heard all it, but he was as normal as I would have ever expected to go through and see everything. He was excited, and it was kind of a whirlwind. Like I say, we went in there, did it, and like in an hour and a half or whatever else he was going. I was like,
just hit it and go, right?
And he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go. We gotta go to the next thing." And I was like, I didn't even see 20 minutes worth of footage happen, but it happens like organically, I guess. And it's unfortunate what happened, but
of course.
But it was it was a cool experience. It was something I wasn't expecting, and then it was over before we even realized it.
What before we get off the topic of the zoo, I'm enamored with the idea. I like it. This is neat. This is interesting to me. I'd pick your brain all night, but we made some other promises to people about what we talk about. But what are some of the? I know you mentioned a particular kind of. I think it was a monitor, but what are some of the species that you've not worked with that you want to work with? And then do you have, or what are your limitations on venomous and potentially harmful type of animals? What sort of boundaries do you have to, I'm sure you have to follow, and there's safety regulations, all that sort of thing. What do you run into on those topics?
I'd say as far as things that I want, if that's kind of what your question was, I would say the only things the only things I really wanted to add was we just finished building an anaconda exhibit, so we're probably going to bring in a green anaconda. That was just something I wanted to add. I've got to finalize getting it and everything else, but we pretty much just finished that exhibit. These Parenti monitors, which I don't know that I ever thought that I would actually be trying to get those, but that's pretty big in the list of things that I would want. And then, like, in honesty, I've kind of gotten everything that I've ever wanted. Like, I don't know what else to say. So, like, we have 70 some exhibits, and like when we were when I had the job doing elephant stuff, they made these jobs, and so basically it was like you can keep on doing elephant things or you can go do reptiles. And part of that was in 2018 we were going to rebuild the building, and so if you do that, you can go pick it out. And so I made a color 27-page document of what I wanted with photos. My director's very visually oriented, and I was like, here are 75 exhibits that I want. And he was good with about 74 of them.
That's cool.
Or maybe 73 because I'm getting a guy.
Sure.
And so, like, I can't really complain about so I really have everything that I want. I mean, as far as venomous goes, we have king cobra, we have Ethiopian mountain adders, we have a few various species of rattlesnakes, we have eyelash vipers, we have Cantil viper, we have cottonmouth. Am I missing anything? Rhino vipers, stuff like that. So I don't know that, like, I would say other things that we had, like, the only other thing that I kind of wanted was I wanted to round it out and maybe have gaboons, but having the rhino vipers and having the parviacular are my favorite. They're feisty, but they're like a green. Have you ever seen one of those? It's a green viper with like black outline scales.
I have seen one, not in person, but I actually, he might even be watching. There's somebody that I know that I believe has one from what you're describing. I lose track of the names, but I believe that I have seen one.
So I would say I'm pretty content with the things we have now. As far as like, so I have a USDA permit because none of the antivenom is FDA regulated. So I have to apply, and then we have to go through a whole city process to buy antivenom. So we keep a refrigerator full of, say, 30 grand worth of antivenom that has to be restocked every, I don't know, we're buying 2 right now. So every 2 to 3 years, you have to rebuy it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, like, we have a protocol, and I write the protocol, and then we train people, and I train people, and I have some other staff that help train as well. Again, I mean, this is, you know, I do a lot of things, but I have a lot of good people that work with me. And so, you know, that's what helps make it all go around. But, yeah, I mean, all the things are in place. And the good thing about that career is it's a small world. And I have a lot of friends that overlap between the private world as well as the zoo world. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in a bunch of group texts all day long. That's what my wife is like, your phone's going off with her. I'm in more group texts about things like that than I know what to do with. But it makes it so if I have a question or a problem or whatever else, it's a text away. Mm-hmm. And the networking and the whatever else, like, it's just, it's all just a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, man, I think that's great. And I'm sorry, I know I said I would get off to the zoo. One thing that I think is important to you as well. Talk about some of the zoo's conservation efforts and how you're able to be a part of that.
So, I mean, part of like the big conservation effort that I'm involved in would be the beaded lizard stuff. So we're looking, but basically right now what we're doing with that is just trying to create populations for zoos to have for exhibit. Not so much as far as just making sure we're not taking animals from the wild. We also took over an old sea lion pool and built a big thing for an AZA program where we have a whole bunch of confiscated turtles. So we have a whole bunch of spotted turtles, wood turtles, Blandings turtles, box turtles, some alligator snapping turtles. So we do things like that. And then we a couple of years ago, we had some graze monitored, or we had a graze monitor, which is a Philippine fruit eating lizard. And so we had a keeper go over there that helped with some stuff in the Philippines and teach some people over there. And
oh, cool.
So part of what you do as a zoo, and there's a lot of this stuff that I'm not involved in, but we have a committee that just takes a certain percentage of our income goes just to conservation efforts. So like Virginia in general, this area of Virginia is very water heavy. Mm-hmm. And so we do a lot of stuff with oyster restoration and wetlands restoration and all that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, so there's just a lot of things around that we're just involved in that just kind of like, you can really just look to the right and find a place that you're really helping out.
That is cool, man. Most of the folks I talk to on the show were, we're living this life for a couple hours a day or as a hobby or whatever, man. That's you're right in it, man. This is cool. Let's see. Steve Doss asks at the Reptile Factory. I saw a picture. I don't know the story behind it, but I did see the picture. Can you still pick up the giraffe? Tell us the story, and then I guess you have to answer the question too.
So I mean, I could, not that giraffe. So years ago, I don't know how long ago was that. That was probably like 2010. The way we would weigh a giraffe for the first 2 days or so when a giraffe is born, you can do whatever you want with it if you are capable. I mean, so when they were born, I went in there and picked one up and stood on a scale with it, and there's a picture of it that is everywhere. Like if you Google,
that's the one that I've seen. Yeah.
If you Google how to weigh a giraffe, my picture comes up. You can't see my face in it. I have a friend I want to make one of those patches for Robin's REDLINE stuff, and I think I'm going to make one with that, with my face coming around in it.
Did you get the contact information I sent you, by the way?
You did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because the one I looked up, I sent them a thing, and they told me I could get 100 for $300, and I was like, that seems a little more expensive than I was expecting. But so I'm thinking about just that picture just is, and the funny part about that picture is when it originally happened, they used it for marketing, and then some director in Europe contacted my director and was like, look at this, and it says, how do you weigh a giraffe? And it says, get a beefcake to hold it. And so my director comes down, like my boss comes down and tells me, like, joking me about being a beefcake and whatever else. I worked out a lot more then, so maybe I was a little bit, but like not now for sure. But
I thought you were going to say you got like a formal complaint or like like somebody in Europe like complained that we were mistreating the animal or something.
No, it's just one of those things. Like that picture, I bet you about every 2 weeks somebody sends me and goes, "Look, you're on the internet." And I'm like, okay. I wish I just made I made like a nickel for every time that thing was on there. I might have $5 or whatever. But it's just a fun picture that's around, and I guess Steve wants to make sure that you know it's on here. But I don't know, it's fun. It's one of those things like. I'm not little, so I'm okay with it. It's a 6 foot, 153 pound giraffe, I think is whatever that thing was. After a couple of days, you can't do that.
Okay.
So like the first day or two, they're a little slow. You can move around. Like, whenever a baby's born like that, we do a whole neonatal and they check and dip its umbilicus and check its sex and take blood from it if you need to and whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
And so you just like, if that's your job and you can, and you are able to do that, then you can help with that. And so that's just what I did. I would say I've been very good at catching animals and picking up animals and doing things like that. I'm built for that. I'm not built for speed at all. But I'm built for manhandling things if they need
once
it.
You get a hold, once you have a hold of it, it's there, right? I got you.
I had a slight wrestling career as a little kid that I think helped me for that. And so I don't know, but it's just I would say. That's just what I'm good at.
Gotcha. Did you earn your ears or did you use the proper headgear as a kid?
And I didn't do it long enough I went to some wrestling camps and did it in junior high. But once I got into high school, I was like, I'm done with all this. So my ears are fine.
Those are the guys. I don't care about muscles. Those are the guys in the bar, and I'll screw it. You got the screwed up ear. You do whatever you want, man. I'm not messing with you.
I have a good friend that's a black belt and that has a cauliflower ear, and I always make fun. I'm just happy. That's what I tell them. I'm like, I'm glad your black belt goes with your ears now, so at least everybody knows.
Let's see. TJ asks Dennis, are you guys the anti-venom holding facility for the medical centers?
We are the holding facility for the zoo. So gotcha. All the Centera hospitals carry crowfab for local venomous snakes, but they don't carry it for. Now we have had people. There's somebody in Richmond that got bit by a viper over the summer. Somebody called me I was out with some friends at a bar. They called me at 12:30 at night asking me if we can provide them with antivenom somewhere else. Luckily, somebody else dealt with that. But so it's like, so we have it, but if you were to need it, we would probably help you if we can. But you'd have to pay it. You'd have to buy it back or whatever. Yeah. And it's not easy because you're buying it from like Africa or Asia or Spain or whatever. Like nothing is easy to acquire, but if it needs to save your life, then if we can help you, then we help you.
Yeah. And this is a whole different rabbit hole, which maybe we don't even need to go down.
So
you all participate in harvesting any venom for such things? No. Okay. All right. Well, that makes that easy.
Yeah, we don't participate in that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no rabbit hole to go down there then. Oh, I see. Okay.
But we're also not set up for that. So, but no.
Yeah, I don't even know the process of the relationship. It just occurred to me. I was like, well, you got a bunch of venomous. Maybe that's it. But that we'll let that one be there. So let's get back to the non-work reptile fun. What species are you breeding, and what's kind of your thing? I saw your morph market page. So I mean, I know a little of the tie-in of ball pythons, but I'm starting to catch on. There's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest part of my collection is ball pythons. I mean, I think I have 50 some females that could go this year. Now, whether that's the case, I think I usually hit around the 30 range. But last year I did less, but I had a really good year before that, and then last year I had a kind of a crappy year. But I also keep like olive pythons, Macalots pythons, Savu pythons. I do all through, well, I guess 4 short tails. Like I have the orange head Sumatran short tails, the black Sumatran short tails, the red bloods, Borneos. I have some blackhead pythons. I have Amazon tree boas. Some corn. I have a variety of corn snakes, some albino hunter and milk snakes, some cow kings. Really, I'm one of those guys, like if I see something that I like, I just have it.
You're just gonna go get it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had more, and I've had less, and I've had, so. But I would say, like, I don't know. I think that might be. I don't know. I probably should have written that down. But I would say, like, that's similar. And I've bred scrub pythons over the years, and I've made lots of liasis in general. So there's olives and I've had lots of other species too. Like I've bred a lot of other different boas, and I've other different pythons and Woma pythons and things like that over the years. So spotted pythons, children's pythons, things like that. I've had a couple clutches of green trees. I haven't had very good success, but I have produced baby green tree pythons before.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard those are, I'll be honest, most of what you're talking about is well over my head and far over my head in my experience. But no, I mean, green tree pythons are just striking to begin with. But I've heard that they're well, no pun intended, they're mean as can be, too striking. But I've heard that they're a real challenge to breed.
Yeah,
okay.
and none of the ones that I produced survived. So I can't say. So I don't even know if I'd say I was successful. I hatched some, but I don't know but they didn't survive. So I did close.
Yeah,
and I've had a lot of carpet pythons over the years too, but I don't have any now.
Oh, cool. If I were to have a non-ball python snake, it would probably either be an Amazon tree boa or a green tree python on a display that I would enjoy and be able to look at.
Yeah, I think any of those things. Like we have a lot of stuff at the zoo. Like we breed Amazon basin emeralds at the zoo pretty regular. Well, the last 4 years in a row, I've made babies there, or we've made babies there. So it's an annulated boas. There's a lot of cool stuff. All that stuff is super cool to take care of and keep. And it's really not that hard. It's just you got to pay attention to it. And personally, I feel like you just need to spray it every day. And
okay,
that kind of stuff makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here in Minnesota, I pretty much spray my ball pythons every day too, anyhow, just because of forced air in the dead of winter here. That's just what you have to be stuck with. So tell us about like some stats on your ball python. I think you said you had about 50 that you were 50 that you could pair, or 50 that you are going to pair breeding females.
Yeah, I have about, I think I looked yesterday, and I think I have about 53 maybe that I could pair. And I'll probably pair most of those. We'll see. I think there's a couple that might not be either recovered or ready, but we'll see. Yeah. I've had a female last year that ate like 2 meals between clutches and laid the clutch eggs. So I'm like, they were large rats, but I'm like, sometimes you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially,
isn't it kind of go time? Like if you're going to pair, like.
I've been pairing, yeah, but so I have the dates of when they laid last year, and I try to go like 6 months before that. So I have some females that laid like in July and August that I just haven't even like. I fed yesterday, but I looking at them and I was like, oh. So yesterday after I fed, I was like, well, I might pair a few more of these than I was expecting.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They eat and then they lay a little certain way, and then you go, oh, there's something happening there.
There's things in there, and I jumped on ultrasounding. It didn't feel like it was very early on. I think it was my second breeding season, but I went ahead and got one after a couple years in, and jump to it?
I haven't ever done that, so I don't know. Like, so I just go by looks or feel or whatever else. And I always say I'm going to buy an ultrasound because I feel like it'd be interesting. I'd really like to know just who I can quit on. Like that's, if nothing else, but I haven't done it yet. So
do you use it? You must use them at the zoo with no, not reptiles. Really?
No, I mean, if something's wrong, but we don't use an ultrasound if our vets need to use it, they will. But I've not ever used one, so I've never.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that have been basically about the best to me in this industry when I was getting started and still now just coming up. Massive collections. Don't use ultrasound. No, nothing. Right. It's just they've been at it. They know what they're doing, and they're producing amazing stuff, like stuff I would aspire to. So, clearly there's a method that's just fine without it. So.
Well, if you do it long enough, you can figure out where those girls are and like yesterday, like I tell you, like they feed and then they go lay, like they lay a little bit differently when it goes in there, or it like sits differently than it did last time you feed, and you just kind of you can kind of tell or see where they're sitting or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
So what are some of the clutches you're looking forward to? What's like your thing in ball pythons?
My thing. I don't know what my thing is. So my thing is that every time
your thing is every python, python you get a hold of, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Every time I've spent a lot of money on a snake, I never make good money. Every time I've done like the blackhead, like you wrote down black, like if I did like banana enchi clowns or blackhead clowns, I've done very well in like buying or raising up a whole bunch of just clown females or pied females or whatever else, and then getting a decent male that was a het or else and breeding that into it. And like I find that, like say a blackhead clown you might spend $1,000 on or whatever else, and like my return for that, like the first year I bred them was like 10 to 15 times that. And so like that's what I've kind of found. So like I really stick to a lot of that. It's like I'm doing some Cypress combos. I bought a nice male from Bob Vu, that Cypress Fire, Yellow Belly, Cinnamon Clown male that I'm breeding. I'm also I bought a male from Jason Kittinger at Last Tinley. That's it's a chocolate enchi hypo DG boy. And so I've been I was like, I haven't really done a whole lot of stuff other than like clown pied and I have hypo pied stuff too, but with like double or triple recessive or anything like that. So I thought that I might use him, and I was like, can't go wrong with chocolate or anything. Can't really go wrong with enchi and anything. So like that male just seemed like he made sense. And I have a decent amount of hypo stuff. So I'm going to kind of plug him around or I'm already plugging him around. Yeah. That and I have like some, like I really, the Orange Dream and the enchi banana stuff sells fairly well for me. And so I'm really going to, I didn't make hardly any of the Orange Dream banana clown stuff last year. Actually, I didn't make any. And so I'm going to kind of make a good amount of it this year, just because it's like, I don't really care if I make $5,000 snakes. I just want snakes that sell. So I want to make stuff that's pretty and stuff that I can move. If it's $3,000 and it sits on there for a year, or if it's $500 and sells in a month, I'd rather have the $500 sell in the month. Just because then my rate of frustration or feeding or a chance for something to go wrong or whatever else. So like I like the idea of making stuff and people enjoying it and getting rid of it. Because I like the adults. I want to take time for the adults. And babies take so much more time than adults. And so I really try to make it so I make a whole bunch of stuff that's, just sellable. And sometimes I'm better at that than others, but that's my goal.
Yeah. No, I love it. That is like, you've watched the show enough or probably heard enough, but it can be overwhelming, especially for somebody starting out or at the point that I'm at, where you're trying to decide which way to go and you hear, Sunset or Hypo DG or save your money and buy a Monsoon or this or that. And it's like, man, that's overwhelming. And how long is it going to take to see results? Man, you can make, and I've experienced this, so I'm confident in saying this myself from my own experience. You can make good money on beautiful combos that are accessible to a wide range of people and buyers And it doesn't mean you can't do the other stuff. I mean, I'm working on some of the other stuff, but those are 3-5 year things to see through. And I've always asked people, like, how are you going to keep the lights on in the meantime? And I mean, the answer is you got to have a job, but if, you know, is it raising rodents? You got to have something else. So I don't know. That's why I put bananas on the thumbnail. It's like, man, because I looked on your Morph Market, there's great banana stuff on there. I'm like, sweet. I love banana, and I still love it. And it moves, it works, it brings people to the table. I enjoy it, man.
Well, and it was COVID times too, but like I sold some banana enchi combos in Tenley last time for $750, $800. I mean, that's it's not bad money. I'm okay with that. Right. Now the clutches I made before that were like $1,800 to $2,200, but I still like that stuff because it's pretty, and I try to make it so all my banana stuff is girls. So all my banana males are female makers, and all my banana, and I keep banana females to make it so I make more girls.
Yes,
I don't need the $100 part of it. I want the at least give me the $500 part of it, the $300 part of it.
Yeah, but there is a limit. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, and you can control it with bananas.
Yeah. So and I was making, and I still make some candy stuff, some Candino stuff, and I sold some of that this year, and I was like, oh my god, why am I even doing this? But I think the look of it is so pretty that I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I just like it. I don't care. So if I make 5 clutches of albino or Candinos or black pastel Candinos, which I think is probably, and honestly, it's probably the prettiest snake that I have in my whole room that nobody gives 2 craps about. It's like, it's lavender and orange. I mean, it's just beautiful. But again, I had to convince the guy at the pet store to do a wholesale deal on them. And then he calls me back and he's like, man, those sold like hotcakes. They're beautiful. And I'm like, I told you. I was like, so like, I like to have a couple things that I have just for wholesale for stores around, and I'll ask the guys around and be like, is there anything you can't get? Because I wouldn't mind making it for you if there's something you can't get. They never give me a good answer, but I pick and choose as to who's buying what and what they want again. And I've had some of the same stores around here for 20 years. So I know what they want. And so I try to make it so I just make stuff that I know I can get rid of. And again, because that way I can take my time and put it into the adults and my wife says that I change cages more than I change snakes, but I'm always trying to like figure out this rack better than that rack. And that's one of those things I'd love for people like you or whoever. Like, I'm intrigued by what people's setups are like. Like, I have half of my room is Reptile Basics and half of my room is ARS.
Gotcha.
And so I'm like, and I don't even know which I would say I'd prefer. I would say I like both for different reasons. But I just find it like, and then I had a whole bunch of different vision cages that I've had forever, and then I switched those over to Reptile Basics cages because I really, really like those and have some animal I don't know, I get stuff and try it, and then I'll be like, this tub's a little bit too small, this tub's a little bit too big, this cage is right, like I don't want sliding glass anymore, I want drop down doors, I want, so I've just all of that stuff intrigues me, and it makes it so I'm like literally I'm like always evolving in some way. And sometimes I'm going back to the stuff I had before, and it's just stupid because I wasted money and did whatever else. But like, I'm always trying to figure out how to make it better. And sometimes you really just don't need to change anything. I've definitely figured that out.
But that's the worst.
Bill Stiegel was on MJ's podcast, and he said the enemy of good is better. And I texted him, and I was like, that's probably the most profound thing. And he's like, he said when he was a doctor, he said that's what he's like, I always said that when doing anesthesia. And I'm like, it makes sense. Like, I've tried to fix things that weren't broke so many times that I've broken them.
Man, I had, and I can't even say the time or the place because the person will know who I'm talking about, and it probably will offend them. I don't want it to. But yeah, I've had conversations where somebody's like, oh, we'll fix that. I'll tell you how to fix that. And I'm like, it's good. It is okay. I'm cool with it. It works. I have results. It's paid for. I'm good. I'm fine. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Just don't change much. Just pay attention, step back, look at what you're doing, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of it plenty of times. So.
Well, and it is the fun. I will admit, I like to tinker with things. So, I mean, it is the fun part of like, I could get this, or I could get that. But then again, you get into the business versus hobby side of it too. So when you talked about trying different things in different cages, I think it was Robin, but maybe it was somebody who's been in the industry forever. And I said I feed primarily frozen thawed. And again, I think it was Robin, but all apologies if it wasn't Robin. And he like lights up. He's like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, "You know how to feed frozen thawed. You've been at this for 3 decades." He's like, "No, I know how I do it. I always want to hear how other people do it because everybody's got their own crazy method." And we had like a 5-minute conversation of like, "All right, what's your temperature? Oh, this is my temperature. How do you flip it? How do you thaw it? How do you get it?" It's like, that's what it reminded me of when you were talking about the cages.
Yeah, and for me, if I'm going to use, I use live mainly, but for my bigger stuff, I use frozen. And so like I put it in, I thaw it in a bucket, put it in there the night before, and then the next day, if I check it in the morning, it's not good. Then when I get home from work, I put more hot water in it, and and then I walk by, and if their head's up, they're going to get a rat. If their head's not up, then they don't get one. Because to me, if their head's not up, they're not going to eat it anyway. So like that's kind of how I go through, and then I know not to even waste my time.
See, mine is on. Yeah, the camera will get that. So that's a oil register heater, and I make a little Dutch oven out of the tub.
Okay. Yeah,
I thaw overnight, and so they're thawed, and I pull them for about 3 hours at room temperature, and then I'll kick that on to only level 2. Level 3 will burst them, and level 1's just going to take too long. So I have to feed after the show, so it's set up, ready to go for me for tonight.
I had an experience doing that. I was a teenager, so this was a long time ago. But where I used a crock, like one of those big water bowls.
Slow cooker.
Yeah, no, like the water bowl, like the 12-inch crock water bowls, the ceramic water bowls.
Oh yeah.
And I put it on top of one of those things and put some mice in it, and I fell asleep. And I woke up, and they had all opened up, and the whole room stunk like whatever else, and so I've never done that again in my life because of that one experience that, shoot, how old am I? Probably when I was 30. It's probably 30 years ago I probably did that. And like, I just have never done it again.
I tell you, I never went the water route because my first reptile room had carpet. And because of my restaurant background, I was like, I will not have anything wet where I can't clean it and sanitize it. And I was like, there has to be another way other than the hot water. So
I have concrete on my floor is concrete, so I don't even care. It doesn't.
Oh yeah.
I just use hot water. I figure it hydrates them and whatever else. So it's
I like the idea of them being hydrated with it, but anyhow, that's for anybody that asks, that's it. And my magic temperature is 112 on the head. 112, boom, and it goes. That keeps them from bursting, but it makes it really hot and gets them, pumped up for the strike.
I never even thought of measuring the temperature of the rats themselves. If I feel the water's warm, then I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I flip them anyway. Yeah. So, and I know everybody goes, "How do you have time for that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't do it while they're anyway, I could do other stuff while it's heating." Right. So, hey, it's the top of the hour. Let's take just a second, if you don't mind. I got to pay a couple bills and give some thanks here. Guys, you've heard us talking about REDLINE shipping. I believe, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe Dennis said in the green room, that's who he uses as well. Of course, that's from Robin Markland and the team at REDLINE Shipping. Check them out. Listen, great experience, great prices. You have a team on your side. I still call them before I ship most things, especially living here in Minnesota now. And every package there, they help me out with it. I don't tell them I'm some advertiser or whatever you might think our relationship is. I just call them up and ask them for help, and they tell me. So check them out. I think that you'll like it. Use the promo code proper5. You're going to get an extra $5 off your shipping label if you do that. Similar with shedtesting.com. That is Charlie from Gray Rider Reptiles. Charlie is, I think, just doing incredible work, providing a great option for shed testing. He is now creating his own shed tests. He's not relying solely on pre-researched data anymore. He's able to produce it on his own. He's got those relationships with the genetic labs. So this is not just a hobby for Charlie. He's going right at it. His new website is live. Check out shedtesting.com. And if you do choose to get some sheds tested from him, use the promo code proper15. You're going to get 15% off of 2 orders. And there's no fine print. I don't know how many that means. Give it a shot. Let it rip. Take care, Charlie. Okay, go see him. Brandon Nixon. Also, he's from Maryland, but another sort of mid-Atlantic guy. He's doing some great breeding, high-quality breeding. Check out his Instagram. You'll see the quality that he puts into his media, and that translates to his reptiles. Like the logo shows, he works with the Orange Genes, not Orange Dreams. I think he probably does have Orange Dream, but Sunset, Ultramel, Monarch, and Hypo is what he's working the most, of course, with nice co-dominance in there as well. Portuguese Pythons, Danny and Renee Rocha, they are out in Chino, California, similarly doing really high quality work with some pretty cool high-end stuff. I know just recently, speaking of Blackhead, they had a clutch of super Blackhead Ultramels that look primo. Go check it out. I think they still have some available, but if not, I know they have primo stuff available. I have a 1.3 from them of Ultramel Pied and several Kodom project stuff. So I love what they're doing, and they're great people. They've been great supporters. Check them out if you will. Trevor at Ball Labs in Aurora, Colorado. Another good supporter, another great guy. We chat every now and again, not too often just lately, but he's certainly active in the community. Just started his own rodent labs as well. And Trevor is working with a Puzzle, Ultramel, Clown, VPI Axanthic, and Tri-Stripe. It's like Colorado seems to be like a little hub of Tri-Stripe stuff, right? He's probably got the good stuff out there. Check him out. He also, in parentheses, kind of a little quieter, he's working with Monsoon, Zebra, and Sunset as well. So a little bit of something for everybody. Last but not least, good partner in crime is Chris at B and S Reptilia. That's Chris Shelley. It's Reptilia because he keeps many species, much like Dennis is describing. Chris tries to pick up at least one new species that he begins breeding each year. Very experienced, very knowledgeable. He is my vending partner at Tinley, and we've had many, I would say, business ventures, but many phone calls where he's helped me out, and hopefully he could say the same for me. I'm proud of the relationship with Chris. He was the very first sponsor of the show, and here we are now several years later. So I'm very proud of that. Please go check out these sponsors. Those of y'all that didn't click away, thank you. These sponsors truly make this show possible and make it, I wouldn't say worthwhile. I think I would do the show, but they keep me accountable, keep me on my toes, and they support me as well. So thank you. All the links are down below in the description, as well as the link for DJM Reptiles. That is Dennis McNamara, our guest tonight. His link is down below as well. I know he's got snakes available right now on Morph Market, and you can check those out too. So welcome back. Dennis, thanks for going through the promos there with me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Where can people find you? I know I saw you on Instagram, Morph Market. Where else is good? How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Morph Market, any of those is easy.
Cool, very cool.
I do try to transition if we're doing the Morph Market thing. I'll usually give my phone number, so it's easier for me to then I'll say let's text after that, because going into that app sometimes I'd rather just text to go faster.
You know what? That's a good topic. Do you wait till so I usually wait until a deal is done before I give my phone number, not because of privacy concerns or anything like that, but just for sort of the moderating potential benefits if there's a dispute of having the Morph Market trail.
No, I do it because I have found that the way that it notifies you, I'll miss it sometimes.
Oh, right.
And so then I'll be like, oh man, I never got back to that person. Or they'll get me at a time where I'm busy, and then I'll be like, I'll look at it again, and then I don't. Whereas I don't do that with text messages. So
yeah,
I just try to do it because I feel like that way I'm more reliable and accountable for myself. I'm one of those guys that if I know there's a message, I cannot leave it alone. So I gotta get back to you. I can't. If I don't know it's there, then whatever. But if I know that there's something waiting, I've got to make sure. I just feel like I'm obligated to get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah, I can't have the little number in the color bubble next to, messages, texts, all that. Yeah, I get what you're saying I get what you're saying about that. I've noticed the same thing with Facebook. I advertise a lot locally on Facebook. That was another initiative to try and make an impact on the local market here. The Facebook Messenger, sometimes it gives me notifications, sometimes it doesn't. And I miss out on that sometimes. So that actually, I really get what you're talking about there.
And if they go into that folder, like there's always that folder, like you didn't even know that it existed. I don't know. I feel like there's a Facebook folder that sometimes I miss.
Well, there's that Instagram folder that like, if one of you is not following the other, it goes to like requests, but there's no notification for that. I don't know. And usually the requests are just spam, but sometimes there's legit stuff in there too. So
yeah. So I try to do, right? So I try to switch it over to text if I can, just because I find I'm more reliable that way. Gotcha.
Have you, speaking of morph market, what's your feeling on the market in general? The early part of my show tonight was my thoughts that things seem to be improving. What's your experience or opinion on that? What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, I would say I've sold 3. Well, actually, they've all been Blackhead clowns. I've sold 3 Blackhead clowns in the last like 2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
So I would say things were slow for me for a while, and then all of a sudden, I was getting a ton of trade offers, like a lot of trade offers. And I have more stuff than I post on there, but I'll put just a little bit up there just because I figured I'll have a whole bunch of the same thing, not a whole bunch, but I have a few. So I'll put one up at a time or whatever else. And then I also find that I can keep up with it better. But I was getting a lot of trade offers and no sales. And then all of a sudden in the last like 2 weeks, I made 3 sales. So I would say things seem like they're okay to me. And I got some inquiries yesterday that didn't pan out, but seemed like but I don't know that I'd count them out yet. So no, It seems like things are moving in the right direction, but it's also tax time. Like this is the time.
Yeah. It was weird. So last year, we go through tax time, and then, we always hear summer's slower, people are traveling. It's not a good time to buy pets or animals. If you're on family vacation, you're not going to buy a snake, or most people, we might, but most people wouldn't, kind of deal. But July was my biggest month last year. And then, I really don't get into the heavy discounts on like Black Friday stuff. Like I'm just like, I'll just sit on the sidelines. November, December, great months. Like at my regular prices, I'm like, okay, this is cool. So I don't know. I've decided that timing the market, deciding it's good or bad. I mean, to an extent, it's always going to be a challenge, because otherwise we'd all be filthy rich. So clearly there's a challenge to it no matter the time. But it is interesting to hear. And I like hearing the momentum that it's doing better, because then people don't sort of like breed this doom and gloom,
Well, I feel like a lot of that was created by podcasts in general and by Facebook and whatever.
Right.
Like, I feel like I can remember not this past Daytona, but the Daytona before was my second best Daytona ever. Like I did really, really, really well.
Yeah.
And then like within like 2 weeks, people were like, "Oh man, the market is horrible." And I'm like, if you stop saying it, it's not. Like stop saying it. Like everything. Like in reality, it was not horrible.
Right.
But you keep on saying it, so people are believing it, and so their sales are going down, and just values of certain things that dropped significantly. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on here. There's not I like say Blackhead. So let's say a year and a half ago, I sold 7 Blackhead het clown girls at $1,500, and nobody even blinked an eye.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to one Tinley, and all of a sudden, like they're $750, and it took me a little bit to sell them. And I was like, if the price hadn't dropped, then I don't think that the desire would have dropped. Like, I feel like everybody's saying that and whatever else, like if I had 10 of them, 20, the way they were going, I could have made a kill. Like I was making a killing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, these are fantastic animals. I love them. I don't even care if I sell them, I'll keep them, whatever else, but they were just moving. And then you see somebody drop a price because they think that the market's dying. And then they did kind of slow down. And again, I'm selling them again now, but I'm like, that snake should sell all day long, because I think it's just worth the most. I don't know. That combo is incredible to me.
It is incredible. Yeah. Well, there's 2 things there. That sort of group self-fulfilling prophecy. And I wonder, and this is unanswerable question, but I wonder if that's like a microcosm of like our whole economy or bigger life. Like,
Oh, for
we
sure.
hear, you know what I mean? We hear housing is tough, and then housing prices come down, but the house didn't change. The person's income didn't change. And sure, demand, if you have 4 offers on it, the price is going to be higher no matter what, because you could get competing offers. So, I mean, it's not just somebody says something, but I do wonder, like, this is all just self-created madness, isn't? I mean, because
I think it happens in a lot of things, and I think it happened. I mean, I think, and again, but I mean, if the media tells you, and then if everybody's telling you everything, and people believe it, and then they start spending differently, they start doing whatever else, that affects everything, So, I mean, it affects your mental health, it affects your whatever is going on, and so all of those things, I would say part of the conversation we had earlier is I'm a very conservative person financially, like with my money. I'm not the biggest risk taker in the world. I am not like, I'm going to go with whatever I think is like I want to, like, when I'm thinking about this as a business, I'm going, I need to make $2,500 a month or whatever. I don't even know what the number is. I'm like, what's the lowest value that I could make 10 of these to get to $2,500 a month?
Yeah.
I'm not thinking like, oh, let me make the best thing and sell one of them. I'm like, what's my guarantee? Like, there's no way I'm not going to sell these 10. And then, I'm going to go up from there. And then if I make more money than but I'm just like, I don't know, I should be a little bit more risk takey, but I'm trying to be as realistic as I possibly can. So that way I'm never disappointed, or in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll pick and choose the things that are extra and exciting and whatever else, or that might be where I do other species or whatever else. But like, I want to know that this is guaranteed in my pocket.
Right. I used to work very specifically for the PGA Tour and then some private clubs after that. And there were some very well-to-do people that I was around. And some of them, anyway, one of the gentlemen that I had a pretty good relationship with, I just asked him one night, and it's great because his last name was Williams, and there's 9 million Williams in the world, so I can even use his name, and nobody knows who I'm talking about. And I said, Mr. Williams, what's the secret? What's your secret? What's been the secret sauce? The magic? And he goes, don't lose big. He goes, if you lose, man, lose little and learn something from it, and then go make more money. He goes, don't lose big. And I was like, at the time, I was like, all right, that's not that exciting. But that was 20 years ago. And that's been in my mind, just the way you're talking about. How can I be a little bit daring and get something new? Because if you always do the same thing you always did, you're always going to get what you got, kind of deal. How can I do a little something new, but protect what I've worked so hard for and not lose big? And that's been in my mind. And I get with you on that too.
So that's, I just try to keep it simple, but then be fun and make it rewarding.
Yeah. I get that part of the model, and I agree with you. I'm on board most of that part of it. Do you have any of your own, like, all right, money's taken care of, I got these beautiful snakes over here that are just like your 3, 5, 10-year thing? You have any of those, or is it just day by day moving stuff?
I mean, it all changes because I go through these phases where I'm like, I should make, I don't know, super enchy banana or whatever. I'll go through these phases where I'll be like, I need to make the super of this, or I need to make super chocolate banana, whatever, clowns or clown pies or hypos or whatever else. I don't know that I have anything like. I mean, I've added males. Like, I'm trying to do a little bit of puzzle stuff now.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So Barry hooked me up with a orange dream yellow belly. It's just a double het hypo puzzle boy, but I have a good amount of hypo stuff, so I'm going to try and plug that into a lot of things. And then I figured I'm going to do a lot more stuff with. I mean, I already have a decent amount of Blackhead, but and I really like what that does, so I'm going to try and I've also figured out that like Orange Dream makes cinnamon that much better in some of the combos I did, like some spot nose combos. It really makes the black better. So I think I'm going to plug Orange Dream into a couple of those things. So I don't know that I'm doing anything that's like groundbreaking, but I'm figuring out things that I like, that I think are cool, that I figured I'll just kind of like play around with. I made some super orange dream banana clowns that sold really, really well, really fast. And then for whatever reason, I didn't try to make them again. So I'm going to try and do those plus a few things. Like, I don't like, sometimes I don't make any sense as to how things go.
Don't you love when you miss that and you're like, it's 2 years away now because I skipped. Yeah.
Well, I sold them. I posted a picture of them as a hatchlet, like being born, and people bought them before I even fed them. Oh, and then I didn't do it again. Like, I don't even know what, like, I don't even understand what goes on in my head. And then I'm like, I need to go back and then I'm like, I wish I kept some of those things. So I'm really going to, I don't know. I mean, I have a good amount of pied stuff and a good amount of hypo stuff and a good amount of clown stuff. And so, like, I'd like to make all of that more a conglomerate a little bit, and kind of go together. And so I'm working on that, so I think this year I just want to get chocolate into as many things as I can. And I want to get Blackhead. Like, I'd really like, if I could get Blackhead, chocolate, and orange dream into things, I think that's where I want to go. And I want to make it so it kind of all works together. And I think and then kind of whatever happens after that is just kind of part of it.
Well, and you'll have whenever happens after that, you're going to have different resources anyhow. You'll have what you came up with, and there'll be something more to work with at that too. And I hear everybody saying you always got to have a plan, and I do think you should have some general plan, but I think you should also leave room for new stuff and new opportunities that's going to arise. I see Dale in the audience. I mean, Dale had 2 animals one day that I had no intention of buying, no plan, no thought of anything. And they were just stunning. And I was like, I got to work with those. And they were hypo. There were some hypo combos, but I have them now and they're breeding now. And that was, a year and a half ago that I picked those up from him. I wasn't going to go work crazy hypo combos. And now I am like, okay, I want all my animals to start looking like that and make them look even better from there. So you never know what you're going to come across too.
I have 2 things for that. So this past year, Dale told me in Daytona, he said, I don't know if you realize this, but I bought one of my first Mojaves from you in Daytona. And he's like, it's kind of one of the snakes that, like, started off my thing. And I was like,
I've heard the story. That was you, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I just learned
it. Okay.
And I was like, it was kind of a cool story because I really like him. And his wife and my wife had a good time at the pool like 2 years ago. And we're all, like they both partied hardy while they were down there. And
I was going to say, Renee's nothing but trouble, just so we all know here. But the best kind.
But it was fun. I was like, I don't know, it made me feel good. I was like, it was a really cool thing. And so, and back to the other part is I bought a snake from, do you know who Limey is?
I do. I've never met Limey, but I do know who he is. Yes.
He's a character.
And I was actually in the audience. Yeah.
I was talking to him earlier today or yesterday, and I bought a Blackhead Mojave Black Pastel yellow belly hypo from him a few years ago that I actually just paired and that snake has become like, I'm like, I almost want everything in my collection to look like that snake.
Yeah.
And so it's gold and it's black and it's striped and it's just so cool. And so, like, he really, with that one purchase, made it so then I was like, I'd already had some Blackhead stuff, but I was like, I'm Blackheading more things. And then, and then I was like, I'm going to put chocolate into this. And so it just, like, really getting stuff from him made it so I kind of changed my direction. Cause like I have 11 adult clown females. I have like a pile of adult pied girls. Like, I always, like, it kind of goes back to that thing. Like, I have all of those like basics to make whatever I want. So that makes it so if there's a newer male that I want to get, I can just get a het for cheaper, plug it in, turn around. I've done it with Orange Dream. I've done it with Blackhead. I've done it with Banana Enchi. I've done it with whatever else where it makes it so you can get in fairly cheap and get a good return. And so, like, I've really, like, a lot of my collection is like that. I think Brock was here 2 summers ago. We had a pool party and whatever else. And I was asking, like, what do you think? And he's like, you need some more diversity in there. And I'm like, I think because it's like I have it all, it's all like safe. So it's all like, it's kind of how I've made it. But it, I'm not making $100,000, but like I can turn 1,000 into 15,000 pretty easily if I do it right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I've looked. Like, I haven't ever gone for the stars, but I've gone for the horizon. So it's,
well, I mean,
it works.
It does work, and it's like blue chips and index funds work as well. I mean, to get really nerdy financially, that stuff works as well. It's not as flashy, but you know what? It's there. And there's the quiet comfort over time of going, oh, this is pretty good life over here. You know, so I'm with you. I think we speak the same language on a lot of things in that way.
When I use that as a sales technique too with people. And so I said, like, I'll try to sell people on that, because I'll be like, hey, look, I'll be like, these are my exact numbers. This is exactly what I put into this project. And I'll be like, this is how much I made last year with it.
Yeah.
If you were to do this, now granted the prices are different than whatever else, but you have the potential to do this. And so it really seems to work, like telling people, but I'm not lying. I'm not even really selling them. I'm just telling them it worked for me. And then giving them kind of like the guideline. If they want to do it, they can do it. But it does really work for me as far as making sales. And it's also a really good way to make a sale that somebody comes back to you, because they're making building blocks. So, so to me, it's been a really good technique to kind of build the customer. Not that I have a huge customer, but I have a pretty good customer base. I have people that contact me fairly regularly about questions and about things like that. And so, again, I wouldn't mind making more. I probably could go for the stars a little bit more on some of those things, but it really is a pretty good plan as far as like, I mean, it's way better than investing in other stuff as far as like your return. Your return's almost guaranteed with it. Even if you don't make as much, even if you make half of what you did or a third, you're still making money.
Right.
And also, like, I found, like, if I have those 10-year-old, like, I have a clown female back there that I got in 2007, and I have some that I produced in 2012, but those girls don't miss. Like, they give you like 8 to 10, 11 eggs. Like,
those are the all-star. Those are the ones, man. Those are the ones.
They're 10, 15 years old, but they might take a year off every 4.
Yeah.
And when they're giving you eggs, it's almost double digits every time. So it's really hard. You know, I think I'm all for upgrading whatever else, but like, it's really hard to not keep those things and make it so you have a good, stable income with that's reliable. And it's all, and again, I can sell that plan to somebody else and they follow it and they are guaranteed that maybe they're not going to make millions, but they're going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then what do you do when you make money? You buy the next project. You buy whatever. Like right now, I sell snakes, so I can buy more Amazon tree bows. That's kind of the thing I'm buying now.
Right.
I want some more red Amazon tree bows, so I've bought. You know, I've been selling stuff so I could get more stuff like that, and so that's kind of how I do it. Unless I have bills to pay. If I have bills to pay, then I sell snakes to pay bills.
Yeah.
But
I think people would. For me, because I didn't have 4 figures to put into snakes, much less 10 or 5 or 6 figures to put into snakes. So cash flow was always important to me.
Right.
Okay, I'll make some enchies and I'll sell those, and then I'll go buy a banana. And I got a little bit lucky because it turned out my banana was a hypo banana, and because I had no experience, I had no idea that it was a hypo banana, and neither did the other owner. And ta-da, things are good. But it was that cash flow part of being able to make it to reinvest it rather than take a huge chunk up front.
Right.
Just didn't have it, or I wasn't willing to risk it for, Mr. Williams' input of don't lose big. So I think what you're describing is a masterclass of anybody that because even now we could say the market's not as tough or not as difficult, but the prices are lower than they've been lately. In a lot of things, not all things, but in a lot of things. But you could pick up a visual female pied and a female clown and a female hypo for much less than even somebody was 2 years ago. And then a couple powerful males and have a really good start right there.
Yeah. And I always try to do it like in 5s. So it's like, or 4 or 5s. Like if you can, then buy 4 girls or buy whatever else, or if you can buy one added gene in there, if you can, I mean, that's even better. But like, it really is, it just makes it so you can, because it also does make, so if you want to get into acid and you don't want to spend, and I don't even know what the price is now, but you don't want to spend $6,000 on an acid clown, spend 2 on an acid het, and then you've got those 5 girls.
Right.
A lot.
Right.
I mean, your odds are good, and next thing you know, I mean, it takes you a little longer. Like that's what Chad Holker and I have been friends, and we were roommates at one point in time since probably 30 years now. So he's taken a different approach than me. He definitely has shot for the stars, and you can tell his collection is fantastic. But he goes to a lot more shows than me. So we are always like, what's selling? What's the price range? What's the whatever else? And like, I'm selling the high end, I'm selling the low end. I'm like, that middle stuff is kind of having a hard time. And so it's like, you can kind of figure out. I know, Dale, I'm sure.
I thought you'd bring out when you said that, I was like, I'm not even going to say anything. I bet we hear from Dale right here.
So
he's talking about the acid.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know the audience do, but yeah, I was like, let's just sit tight here for a second. Go ahead.
So it is one of those things. So we talk about that, I don't know, probably every day, every other day, where it's like, what is the best way to do this? Are we doing it the right way? Are we doing, and he definitely has taken more risks than me, but I think it's paid off for him more than me too. But, we just have taken different paths, but I think they both work.
Yeah. I think that's the best part of it. What works for one person can work for somebody else, but also somebody else is going to have different risk tolerance, resources, passion, care, desire, big picture, all of that stuff. So I don't.
Yeah, and his focus is better than mine. I'll tell you that. Like,
okay, well then there's that too.
His focus is definitely better than mine as far as that kind of thing. So I mean, he's doing a fantastic job with all that stuff, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But but I definitely look and go, well, maybe I could do that.
Yeah, maybe. What do you got up there?
Right.
Dennis, are you going to be in Tinley here next month?
I will. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Where else can people, obviously you talked about on Morph Market, Facebook and Instagram, and then Tinley, where can people see you after Tinley if they want to catch up with you?
I think the next thing after Tinley is probably going to be Daytona unless something else comes up between. There may be that Virginia Beach show, which I haven't seen, that last year was like the beginning of August. If something else comes up, maybe we'll see what happens, but hopefully Tinley's good enough that I don't have to worry about it. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to I can make some stuff and then not worry about it. And then if I sell some stuff, I'll just ship it.
I dig that idea too. Well, Dennis, I have to boogie. I got to go be a dad for a little bit. And then I got to go.
I get that.
Cook these things right here, get them to a toasty 112 to feed these babies. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I'm glad we got to hang out. I hope we find few minutes in or maybe a few beers in Tinley to hang out as well if that's up your alley.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'm all for that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, audience. Thank you for being here. Fear to Fascination is next week, same place, same time, and all of Dennis's contact information is down below as well. It'll take you to his Morph Market and Instagram pages down there. Please check them out. Check out the sponsors. And otherwise, Dennis, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next month in Tinley, man.
Sounds great, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you for being here. See you soon.
Bye.
Hang out just a second in the green room. Okay. But I'm gonna hit the video real quick here. Good night, everybody.